we were talking about the money side of stuff, and we've touched on it already slightly about building up your profile, obviously making money from the fights, but really and truly where you're going to become a self-made millionaire, someone that is uber successful, kind of probably isn't from the fighting. It's going to be from the money that you make from the fighting, and then you invest it into businesses or assets, and that's how you become very successful. Conor McGregor, right? Okay, let's look at the two people that dominate a sport. Mayweather in boxing, he's getting 300 million a fight for Pacquiao, and something very similar when he fought McGregor. And then, you know, there's been other times where he's got tens of millions by fighting Canelo Alvarez and Oscar De La Hoya. I mean, he's grossed over $1 billion in his lifetime. And then you got Conor McGregor, who makes a huge amount of money from fighting now because of his profile. A lot of young fighters, boxers or MMA fighters, will look at that and kind of see it as a bit of a blueprint, but also a bit of a goal, and think, right, I'm going to go out there and start making myself millions and millions of dollars from fighting and become famous. The reality is there's only a few people that make it to the top who even come close to making that kind of money. So along the way, can you give us a bit of an insight to the kind of money that some fighters will be getting in their first few fights, how the bonus structures are, what is on the line, how much risk there is, and then once you actually get that money, how it's broken down to taxes, sports therapy, your trainer, nutritionist, give us a real breakdown to hit home to the audience the realities of the finances in your first few fights.
So if you're just purely fighting, so my motivation when I started was that I want to do this for a living. That was literally it. But it wasn't for the glitz and the glam. It was because I just wanted to be an athlete. That's what, I was passionate about. But what I say to people is that for the first, 9 years of my career, I didn't have a pot to piss in. I was a Cage Warriors world champion, and I think I got 1,500 quid to fight. Luckily, I sold a lot of tickets at that time, so, I probably made a couple grand on tickets. But let's just say I did that 3 times a year, which was being the champ, a world champion. That's 15 grand a year. I think I earn more in McDonald's if I went to work there. My first professional fight, I think it was 100 quid. Sorry, I'm coughing so much, don't I? There is no money in the sport until you get to the big time. When I got to the UFC, I can't actually remember now. I think it was 10 and 10 or 12 and 12, which is kind of like the standard pay bracket. And what I explain to people is that the UFC, when you get to UFC, you haven't made it, far from it, but you've made a platform that you now potentially could make it. So my debut, let's just say it was 10 and 10. If I lost, it would have been $10,000, which in English currency is what, 8.5 grand, something like that. You got 20% for your manager. You've still got to pay your taxes. So I literally, if I had lost my UFC debut, would have walked around with probably in my pocket, let's say £4,000, which is nothing. If I did that 3 times a year, that's £12,000. Like, who's going to live off that? But if you win in the UFC, you always get double. So my contract, I think, let's say it was 10,000. I won, so I got 20,000. Luckily, I got the bonus, which was performance of the night bonus, which was 50,000. So I literally had in my bank, let's say a week later, £40,000, which to me was like, oh my gosh. I'd never had more than 200 quid in my bank, because the 1,500 quid that I would have earned on Cage Warriors would have gone straight to, the bills that I owe my mum and dad, or, things that I had to buy. And all of a sudden, I've got 40 grand in my bank. Like, that's it. I've deducted the taxes. Everything's paid for. I think the tax was paid in America at the time. I didn't know what to do. I thought I was rich. I thought I made it. But then in hindsight now, I realized, it's not actually that much money when you look at it. The structure with the UFC is that at the time I was signed on a 4-fight contract. So if you get 10 and 10 and you win, it goes 12 and 12. If you win, it goes 14. So every fight goes up a couple thousand. And then before your last fight, we renegotiate the contract. I think I was undefeated on my first contract. So then I went up to around like the 26 mark. And again, I was sitting there thinking, you're telling me that to win a fight, I'm going to make $52,000, and I do this for fun. As long as I was making ends meet, I was happy to do this for a living. And now you're talking about serious money as far as I'm concerned. Now, I think the fight I just done was 45 and 45. So that's 90 grand with a potential bonus. That's 140 grand for one night's work. If you do that 3 times a year,
it's good money.
It's good money. But if you win, obviously if you lose, you get half. People forget so my friends once said to me, mate, you're paying for the dinner tonight. And I went, why? They went, you've just got 50,000 quid in your bank. I said, yeah, but you're forgetting I do have to pay tax. I do have to pay my manager's cut. I do have to pay my coaches some money. They don't actually charge me fortunes, but you've got stuff to pay. I've got to pay the camp. And if I've got 40 grand, so I'm kind of going all over the place now, but there was one fight I had. It was versus Casey Kenny and I lost and I thought I won. So I was pissed. And I think I got 26,000. And then luckily I got the bonus. So we both got fight of the night bonus. And then in my bank, let's say I had 40 grand from that fight. So my friends are sitting there thinking, mate, you got 40 grand there. But I then didn't fight for 2 years. So I had to live off that 40 grand for 2 years, which is 20 grand a year, which isn't nowhere near rich or made it. I said to my mates, I said, look, explain your wages to me. And I said, you earn more than me. So then they started to kind of go, oh, okay, you got a point. Because that's what people forget. You get paid in big chunks in the UFC, but if you go and spunk that money, what are you going to live on? Fortunately, I do have some good sponsors which pretty much just cover my monthly rent and outgoings. But you won't see me, splashing cash because as far as I'm concerned, I need to hold on to that until my next fight. So since then, I have now kind of with the mindset of, invest my money and stuff. And that's why I started the businesses because, this money's great when we get paid,